My daughter called me just her caregiver, so I ended the secret scholarship. She never knew the Miracle Fund was built from my midnight shifts and skipped meals, and it carried a clause she shattered on stage. One call and a folder of receipts, and the story she rehearsed crashed into the one I built in silence. Before we continue, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This will greatly help me with promotion. Thank you. Hi, I'm David, and the day my daughter called me just her caregiver in front of a cheering crowd was the day I learned love without respect is the loneliest kind of love there is. When Grace was born, I held her against my chest and thought, this is it. This is the reason everything's about to change. Her mom left 2 weeks later, said she didn't want to rot in a small town with a crying baby and a man who didn't dream big enough. Maybe she was right. I didn't dream big, I dreamed safe. Full fridges, paid bills, bedtime stories. I learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials. I burned through 3 microwaves trying to get the macaroni just right. I missed school meetings because of double shifts, and I yelled when I shouldn't have. But I always showed up. I was her dad, not a placeholder. As she grew, I saw the shift. Her classmates had parents with sedans that didn't squeak, granite countertops, vacations that didn't involve tents or borrowed sleeping bags. I saw the light in her eyes change. She started calling me David when she was mad, laughed at my job, rolled her eyes at the rust on my truck. I told myself it was just a phase. I had to believe it was. Still, I built for her. Every penny saved, every skipped meal, every lawnmower I fixed after midnight was for her. I even created a scholarship in someone else's name to make sure she could fly, even if she never saw the hands that built her wings. Then came graduation. She was valedictorian. Thunderous applause. And then she pointed at me. That man, she said, was just my caregiver. He's no longer necessary in my life. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because pain, at a certain volume, becomes silence. After the ceremony, I didn't fight through the crowd. Didn't pose for photos. I walked out a side door, slow, steady, with the second-hand camera still clutched in my hand like a souvenir from a life that just got erased. That night, I sat on the porch with a bottle of cheap whiskey and the manila folder I'd kept hidden for years, the Grace Initiative. The scholarship she thought was a miracle. The one that paid for everything. Every cent had come from me. Side jobs under fake names. Cleaning gym floors. Fixing appliances. Skipping meals. Canceling doctor appointments. All so she could stand on that stage like royalty. And she had, head high, voice proud, as she cut me out of her story like I was a stain. But that speech wasn't just painful. It was a deal breaker. Because that scholarship came with a moral clause, honor, humility, gratitude. And she'd failed all 3. So I picked up the phone and called Marcus. Marcus had been my friend since we were both broke teenagers flipping burgers and dreaming of something steady. Now he was on the scholarship board, a respected guy in a tailored suit who still remembered how to fix a carburetor. He didn't know I'd funded the Grace Initiative. That was the point. I wanted her to earn everything without knowing I'd paved the road with my bones. When I told him the truth, he didn't interrupt. Just listened, the way old friends do when they know the weight of silence. Do you want to revoke it? He finally asked. I looked out into the dark, thought about every promise I whispered to the night when she was little. I'll never let you fall. But this wasn't falling. She jumped. And shoved me over the edge first. Yes, I said. By the next afternoon, the board had voted. No drama. No hesitation. The terms were clear. The breach was loud and public. Grace got the email at 3:06 p.m. Subject line, urgent, scholarship meeting required. Body, please report to the financial aid office immediately. She probably thought it was a promotion. A new opportunity. Another medal. She walked into that room with her head high, glossy lips, designer bags slung over her shoulder like armor. She didn't see me right away. I was behind a frosted panel, more shadow than man, until the moment our eyes met. Dad? She blinked, the word small and strange on her tongue. I didn't flinch. Didn't soften. Just gestured to the chair across from me. She sat slowly. Guarded. Like the floor might fall out. I don't understand, she said. I slid the termination letter across the table. Bright yellow highlights marked every clause, every line of legal truth that had finally caught up with her. This isn't real, she whispered. My grades are perfect. I've followed every rule. Academically? Sure, I said. But this wasn't just about grades. It was about values. And last week, on that stage, you failed all of them. Then I handed her the second folder. Receipts. Emails. Bank transfers. Years of hidden labor. She read. Her hands shook. Her breath hitched. But why would you do this? Because you asked me to, I said. You said I wasn't necessary. I'm just honoring that. Her face cracked. I didn't mean it, she cried. It was a speech. I thought it sounded strong. You didn't just hurt me, I said. You erased me. She reached for my hand like it still belonged to her. I pulled it back. I'll fix it. I swear. No, I cut in. You don't get to keep what you built on my back. I stood, took the folders, and said the hardest thing I've ever said. You're not being punished. You're being held accountable. Then I walked out. The next 2 days bled together like bad watercolor, blurry and quiet in all the wrong places. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat much. I just sat in the silence, which had changed from heavy to sharp. It followed me from room to room, curling around old photos, whispering what-ifs into the floorboards. I kept checking my phone like a fool. And then it buzzed. One text. I'm sorry. No punctuation. No explanation. Just 2 words thrown into the void like she hoped one of them would bounce back carrying forgiveness. I didn't answer. An hour later, another message. Then another. They came like waves, pleas wrapped in shame, then justification dressed as reflection. She was flailing. Trying on versions of herself like costumes at a thrift store. The proud daughter. The scared girl. The one who didn't mean it. The one who thought it would sound powerful. The one who said I raised her better. Still, I didn't reply. But I read every single one. Twice. Not to consider forgiving her, but to measure the shape of her regret. Was it real? Or just fear disguised as growth? Then came the knock. Tuesday night. Cold enough that the porch light flickered every time the wind pushed too hard. I opened the door, expecting a delivery or maybe a neighbor asking about the gutters. It was Grace. No makeup. Ponytail. Hoodie too big for her. No bag, no jewelry, just her. Raw. Quiet. Visibly unraveling. Dad, she whispered, voice barely audible. Can we talk? I didn't move. Didn't open the door wider. Just stared, trying to figure out if I was looking at my daughter, or just someone wearing her shape. Talking's what got us here, I said. Not sure there's anything left to say. She nodded. Didn't flinch. Didn't beg. I know I messed up, she said. I know I hurt you. I was ashamed of where I came from. Thought I had to sound like I came from something bigger. But I get it now. You weren't small. You were everything. Her voice cracked like a branch under snow. You didn't deserve that speech. You deserved a thank you. A spotlight. A seat on that stage next to me. She didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't ask for the scholarship. She just stood there, the wind catching the hem of her hoodie like a flag of surrender. I'm not asking to come in, she said. I just needed to say it. Face to face. I nodded. The kind of nod you give when you're not sure if you're hearing an apology or a performance. Take care of yourself, I said quietly. And I closed the door. Not fast. Not loud. Just enough to make clear the conversation was over, for now. She didn't text after that. Didn't call. Just silence again. But not the same kind. This silence didn't chase me through the house. It sat on the porch and waited. The silence held until Marcus called again. She filed an appeal, he said cautiously. Of course she did, I murmured mostly to myself. She's claiming emotional distress. Says she was manipulated. Confused. I let the words hang, didn't bother with a response. We watched the video, he continued. The board reviewed everything. Her speech wasn't a mistake. She meant it. She rehearsed it. I leaned back in my chair, the wood creaking like it was tired of holding me up. So? It was unanimous, Marcus said. Termination stands. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the ceiling. It didn't offer answers, just dust and shadows. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just hollow. Like I'd been scrubbed clean and forgot to grow skin back. Then the rumors started. Somehow, no one knew who, details leaked. Not everything. But just enough. Grace lost her scholarship. She disrespected her father in public. She was dropped. Cold. She went from rising star to cautionary tale faster than I thought possible. Professors stopped calling on her. Classmates stopped tagging her. Friends, those glittery, surface-level friends, began to scatter like pigeons when the bread runs out. Her roommate moved out. I heard she got reassigned to the overflow dorm, a concrete cube with peeling paint and no view. But I didn't gloat. I'm not wired for revenge. I never wanted her to suffer. I just wanted her to see. And then, one random Thursday, Elijah stopped by. My neighbor's kid. Marine. Good head on his shoulders. Always called me, sir, even when I asked him not to. I saw Grace, he said, helping me patch a gutter. On campus. I didn't respond. She looked rough, he added. Like the kind of rough that isn't about sleep or grades. I tried to say hi, but she just kept walking. Didn't look up. Didn't even pretend to smile. That night, I went to my room and opened the drawer I hadn't touched since graduation. Inside was a stack of glue stick memories. Father's Day cards and crooked handwriting. Crayon drawings of us, always stick figures, always smiling, always holding hands under a too big sun. One stood out. Me and my hero. A lopsided figure with brown scribbled hair and a cape made of blue scribbles. I sat there for a long time. Not crying. Not regretting. Just remembering what it felt like to be someone's hero. I didn't text her. Didn't call. But I whispered something to the quiet anyway. You were the best thing I ever did. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like a lie. It was a gray Saturday in December when she came back, for real this time. I was out front raking dead leaves, bundled in an old flannel, headphones in, muddy waters playing low like background soul. I didn't hear the car pull up. Just noticed a pair of scuffed sneakers stepping onto the curb, jeans, faded hoodie, no armor. I paused the music. She stood there like she didn't want to take up space. Hands in her sleeves, hair tied back in a messy bun. The version of her I hadn't seen in years. Not polished. Not curated. Just Grace. Small and real and cracked down the middle. Hi, Dad, she said. I studied her face. Not out of anger, just caution. She didn't look like someone staging a comeback. She looked like someone who'd walked through fire barefoot and wasn't sure if the blisters would ever stop stinging. I didn't come to ask for anything, she said quickly. Not forgiveness. Not money. Not even for you to talk to me. I just nodded. Waiting. I came to say thank you. And to say I was wrong. About everything. About you. I thought success meant starting over, scrubbing away anything that looked like struggle. But now I see, everything good in me came from being tethered to you. She looked down at her shoes. I don't expect anything. I just needed to say it. Face to face. The wind picked up, tossing a swirl of leaves between us like punctuation. Then I asked, "Why now?" She looked up, eyes watery but steady. "Because I finally get what freedom is. It's not the apartment, or the grades, or the applause. It's telling the truth, even if it doesn't fix anything. Even if it only changes me." I nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying it." She blinked, surprised. I think she expected the door to slam again. Or maybe to be pulled into a hug she hadn't earned. Instead, I gave her something smaller. Something harder. "But that doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was," I said. "Forgiveness takes time. Trust takes longer." She nodded right back. "I know. I'm not asking to erase what happened. I'm asking to start from the sidewalk." So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I stepped back. Not much. Just enough to let her in out of the wind, if she was willing to take the first step. She didn't. Not yet. But a month later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Just Dad on the front. 3 full pages. Ink smudged. Words crossed out. Some circled. No polish. No performance. Just truth. She told me about the days after the scholarship vanished. About how the campus she once ruled turned cold. How fast applause turns to absence. How loneliness settles in when nobody's watching. She wrote, "I thought I was building something new. But I was just painting over what you built for me." She wrote about peanut butter dinners. Bedtime stories. How she still braids her hair the way I used to. How she remembered everything. And then this. "I thought you were embarrassing because I didn't understand how hard it is to stay. You stayed. When it wasn't pretty. When it wasn't fun. When no one clapped. That's what a hero does. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it." I folded the letter and tucked it behind a photo of us from her 4th birthday. She's on my shoulders, holding a balloon and a juice box. Grinning like I hung the moon. And for the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt remembered. A few weeks later, she showed up again. No announcement. No text. Just a knock on the door on a late Sunday morning while I was halfway through fixing the porch railing. I opened it expecting a neighbor, maybe a Jehovah's Witness, definitely not Grace, holding a thermos of coffee in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. "You said the top railing was loose," she said, glancing down at it. "Thought I'd help." She didn't ask to come in. Didn't make it a moment. Just stood there like someone showing up for community service they'd volunteered for on purpose. I didn't say much, just nodded and handed her the drill. We worked in silence. Not heavy. Not awkward. Just steady. Like 2 people building something with their hands because the words weren't ready yet. We reattached the railing, reinforced the support beam, and sanded down the splintered edge that had been catching jackets for years. Her movements were cautious at first, then confident, like the muscle memory of care was slowly returning. At one point, our hands touched, reaching for the same screw. We didn't flinch. Afterwards, we sat on the steps, coffee between us, early spring air settling into our bones like a tentative peace. She picked at the sleeve of her hoodie for a long time before finally saying, "Do you think we could rebuild? Not the scholarship. Not the speeches. Just us. Even if it takes years." I looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the daughter who cut me out of her story. I saw the kid who once cried because a squirrel got hit in the road. The kid who used to race me to the mailbox barefoot. The kid who used to call me Daddy, like it was the safest word in the world. "I think," I said, "we can try." She smiled then. Not a polished smile. Not a curated grin. Just a crooked, uncertain, vulnerable smile that looked like hers again. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just sat on the porch until the sun shifted and lit the wood between us, warming the gap we'd left cold for too long. That night, I didn't pour a drink. Didn't reread the letter. Didn't sit in the past. I made macaroni. The good kind. The kind with real butter, extra cheese, and no garnish. The kind I used to make when bedtime was at 8 and the biggest emergency was a missing sock. I didn't know what would happen next. But for once, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop or the next apology to come in. I was just home. Spring slipped quietly into summer. The porch bloomed with chipped paint and cautious routine. Grace started stopping by on Sundays. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes with bagels. Sometimes with nothing but a story about a class or a podcast or something ridiculous her new roommate said. The first few weeks, she hovered at the edge of the steps like she was still asking permission to exist in my presence. But I let her sit. I didn't ask questions. Didn't poke at the old wounds. I just let her talk. And listened, not like a father who needed explanations, but like a man learning the shape of his daughter all over again. There were no speeches. No grand confessions. Just the slow return of a laugh I hadn't heard since she was 12. One Sunday, she brought a box. Inside were little things. A framed photo of us from the fair, her face painted like a tiger, me holding a funnel cake like it was a trophy. A lanyard with her dorm key. A scarf I thought she'd thrown out. And at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, the scholarship certificate. "I don't want this anymore," she said. "Not like this. I kept it to remind myself what I earned. Now I keep it to remember what I forgot." She handed it to me like it weighed 100 pounds. I didn't say anything. Just nodded, took it, and put it away. Some stories don't need full circle endings. Some just need softer chapters. By late August, she started helping me with my side jobs. Fixing appliances, patching drywall, handing me tools before I even asked. She didn't complain. Didn't flinch at dirt under her nails or the ache in her knees. One afternoon she said, "You know I still want to finish school, right?" I nodded. "You should. I'll pay for it myself this time." I didn't argue. Didn't offer to help. Just said, "Good." Then she added, "But if you wanted to help me study for statistics again, I wouldn't hate that." I smiled. That night, she stayed for dinner. Macaroni again. She made it this time, burned the bottom a little, forgot the salt, but she grinned the whole way through. When we sat down to eat, she looked at me and said, "Thanks, Dad. For everything." I looked back and said, "You're welcome." Not because it was easy. Not because everything was fixed. But because even when the house collapses, sometimes, you get to build a porch where forgiveness can sit a while. And that was enough. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just passed the cheese and ate like a family relearning how to be one. And for the first time, love and respect sat at the same table. Together. Where they belong. At last.